So when I study how people perceive their environments and what kind of perceptual information that they use, my go-to task is called coordinated rhythmic movement, and it's not a task that I don't particularly sort of care about it in and of itself. It's my model task. It's a nice simple task that I know in great detail, got mathematical models for it, all that kind of good stuff, and it just lets me poke around in a way in which I can actually figure out what the answers mean when they come out. And so the basic form of the task, actually, if you get your fingers like this, hold them like this, if you get your fingers moving up and down doing the same thing at the same time, that's called 0 degrees relative phase. You can do this all day, every day. I can ask you to speed up, no problems. The other one you can do is this alternating pattern, right? So we call this 180 degrees relative phase. And this one's pretty easy as well, but it turns out that if I ask you to speed up, eventually you can't help yourself. But switch into 0. This just reaches a point where you can't fight it anymore, and if I ask you not to fight it, you'll just pop right into it. There's lots of intermediate rhythms as well. So this one is 90 degrees, and I can do it only because I've been doing this for years and years, but it tends to be the kind of thing that people can't do without at least a little bit of practice. So this task has lots of nice kinds of pieces to it. We can study performance of the sort of the standard movements in the 0 versus 180, for example. Under a bunch of different feedback conditions, we can have a look and see what affects performance, what doesn't affect performance. We also got the scope to study learning, because there's things that people need to learn how to do, and they don't sort of come to the lab ready to do it. Then we can train people up and examine learning and think about how that goes. And so these studies are easiest to run on-site, because I've got all the equipment and the software and all that sort of good stuff. However, there are a couple of versions of this study that involve not just not moving, but actually just viewing displays and making judgments about them. It's a way of testing the perception of these things. At the moment, I don't have a way to present these online, but in principle, they wouldn't actually be that complicated to do if a student was interested and had a little bit of a programming background. Wouldn't take too much. There's several online platforms for running online experiments, and if anybody had a little programming experience and wanted to take that on, I don't think it would be too horrendously complicated. And again, that would just give sort of a nice opportunity to collect actually quite a lot of data quite easily on a new thing that I've been studying, which is individual variation and how people perceive these movements. And I'm very interested in sort of the scope of this individual variation, and I'm very interested in the consequences of that. What are the consequences of using different information variables on how well people can produce these movements, perceive these movements, so on and so forth. That has big implications for the way we've been modeling things and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, these kinds of projects definitely easier to run on site. But there is certainly scope to try and put them together in an online way if somebody was up for it, and that would be kind of cool as well.